Okay, before we get into transfer portal stuff, again, I want to remind you guys, the Locked On Kentucky Discord is a go. It is new. It is fresh. There are about 50 of you in there already. Link is in the description if you want to go check that out. Also, if you're listening on podcast, it will also be in the description there. It's going to be a super fun place for us to talk about anything going on with Kentucky athletics, football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, anything you want to talk about. It's going to be awesome, so I really appreciate you guys that have joined, and if you want to go join, it's free, it's quick. Would love to have you guys just sit and chat about UK athletics. All right, transfer portal madness for Kentucky basketball's roster. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of players to talk about today. We've got 3 different players that I really want to dive into, a couple of players that I want to dive into on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Apparently, the Wildcats have reached out to a number of prospects in the portal. Some of them behind the scenes and some of them front-facing. Some of them Kentucky has to kind of reconnect with after Coach Cal left. But there are 3 new players that have been reported to be in contact with Mark Pope in the Kentucky Wildcats. The first of which is JaKobe Coles out of TCU. JaKobe Coles started his career at Butler in the Big East as a freshman and has spent the last 3 seasons at TCU. This past year, 10 points, 3.8 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 0.4 blocks, shooting 49% from the floor and 42.2% from 3 as a, get this, 6'8", 225-pound wing slash power forward slash center. He played the 3, he played the power forward spot, and he played the center position for the TCU Horned Frogs this past year. Primarily at the 4, though. 6'8", again, 225. Absolute load at that power forward position, and a really, really good shooter to boot. He shoots 66% field goal or at the rim, shoots 66% on field goals at the rim. Really, really like his game, kind of a pick and pop inside-outside guy, somebody that can also pass the ball around a little bit as well. He shoots 43% on right baseline mid-range jumpers. He shoots 44% on mid-range jumpers from the right side, period. In case you're wondering, that's actually really good. Kentucky as a team shot 44% on all mid-range jump shots last year, which was number 9 in the nation. So JaKobe Coles at 6'8", really solid in the mid-range, and that's something that I think, again, we need to start to accept that while Mark Pope loves to shoot a ton of threes, he really does like to incorporate 3-level scoring with some of his personnel, and if you're really efficient at that mid-range shot, you're going to be given a few opportunities within a game to take some pretty open jumpers just because of how the offense operates inside and out. So he's a good mid-range shooter from the right side. He's only shooting 28% from the left elbow, though. And fun statistic for you, no team in the country is shooting worse than 28.4% on middies this past season. So really, really hot from one side, really, really cold from another in the mid-range. Going to be interesting to see how he's utilized in the offense, knowing those statistics if he does commit with Mark Pope. But the biggest thing that I like about him, he is an excellent catch-and-shoot player. 57.1% effective field goal percentage on catch and shoot shots. That is in the 86th percentile nationally. At 6'8", 220, 225, I will absolutely take somebody who can catch and shoot like that at the 4. Would love to have a player like JaKobe Coles. And then on top of all of this, he plays with tempo. 19% of his points came in transition, 87th percentile nationally. So he plays with tempo. He's a great outside shooter. He can body you up in the post as well because of his weight and his size. He's good in the mid-range. The only thing that would be the concern for me is a Trey Mitchell-like development. Look at his 2 previous seasons at TCU. He shot 28.2% and 32.4% from 3 before dramatically jumping up 10 percentage points this past year. My concern is that he would start a year off hot and then slowly start to fall off as teams adjusted to his style of play. Now, I think I like this kid's form a little bit better than Trey Mitchell's, and that's not to say that either of these kids are bad players. That would be the only concern I have, but that's only if things like injury happen, and you can't really predict injuries. So as far as what he is healthy from this past year alone, this would be an excellent addition to Mark Pope's team. I love JaKobe Coles. Then there's another player, a former 5-star prospect that has entered the transfer portal after his freshman year, coming out of the Pac-12, and you may recognize this last name, Andre Stojakovic. And if you recognize that last name, Stojakovic, he is the son of former NBA great Peja Stojakovic. 7.8 points per game while averaging 3.4 rebounds, 1 assist per game as well. Only shooting 41% from the floor and 32.7% from three. But I think there is a very high upside here with Stojakovic. He shot 57% at the rim as a guard, by the way, in case you're wondering about his dimensions. 6'7", 190 pounds. They're asking this kid, at least they did last year, to handle the ball a lot as a freshman guard at 6'7", 190. I think he's getting more comfortable with his body, and I think that he can be developed into something more efficient statistically than what he showed in his freshman year. A lot of high upside with this kid. Former McDonald's All-American, by the way. He's not a great outside shooter. He has a really, really wide base, and I think that comes from shooting with his dad. He's got a very wide base where he kind of sticks his legs all the way out. He's bending from the knees inward, which is kind of weird. And his shot form is just very slow for a player that has like such versatility elsewhere in his game. He's really impressive with the ball in his hands. It's interesting to me that he struggles with his outside shot and getting that thing up quickly. I think that he could be changed a little bit. I think that Stojakovic, very talented player. I think as far as height, dimensions, tempo, he fits what Mark Pope wants to do. I think he can be made to be a better basketball player statistically. He shot 43%, he shot 33% from the left elbow on mid-range jumpers, which is about a little bit less than average nationally. He's a good left corner three shooter at 38% from beyond the arc there. He is not a good off-the-dribble shooter, 38.6% effective field goal percentage, which is, for lack of a better term, just awful. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that his jump shot is slow. So I think that if he was willing to change his jump shot a little bit, I think that Pope could turn him into the 5-star that he was projected to be. Again, number 25 prospect in the 2023 class, number 5 player out of the state of California, number 5 small forward. Just has a lot of potential with a very versatile scoring arsenal. He can absorb contact as a finisher. He is also just an explosive athlete as well. He can get hot from outside the arc at times, but I want to see more consistency from Stojakovic, who, to be fair, was not like a major part of Stanford's rotation this past year. Just when utilized, they asked him to go out and score, which was just interesting to monitor there. So Stojakovic, I think, is a player that Kentucky could utilize. I'm not sure how interested he is in Kentucky, but it has been confirmed by On3. The Wildcats have reached out. All right, final player I want to talk about here today. David Coit, a 5'10" guard out of Northern Illinois. David Coit does not necessarily have extremely impressive statistics, but what he does have, as the kids like to say, is that dog in him. This guy is very fun to watch at 5'10". He does an excellent job creating space for himself in isolation situations. He is a confident, dare I say, aggressive outside shooter, an explosive player at 5'10". He shoots 59% at the rim as a 5'10" guard, almost 60% at the rim at 5'10". That's 24% of his field goal attempts. Left and right wing threes, he's pretty similar, actually. He doesn't fall off on either side, about 32% from both wings, so that's not awful, but it's kind of subpar. But I like the vibe. I like the confidence. He likes to pull from deep. I love his game. Just as far as the continuous aggression, again, just the ability to step into shots so confidently. The kid stepping out there, and he's playing like he means it. A 20% assist rate to boot. He's also very solid there. He's got handles, creates space for himself very well. He's an efficient scorer off of ball screens. He's really not afraid to just explode and get to the rim. If you give him a lane, he's crafty, he can finish. But I think the biggest thing, again, about his game is he's a good scorer in isolation. He scores 11% of his points in isolation, which is in the 87th percentile nationally, one of the better isolation scorers in the country. Again, with such a small stature, I really like David Coit. This past year, 20.8 points per game, 33.7% from beyond the arc. He shot 40.7% from the floor, 49.8% from two, 3.4 assists, 3.2 rebounds, 1 steal per game. In his previous year at Northern Illinois, he averaged 15.5 points per game on 37% shooting from beyond the arc. So he can be a good three-point shooter. I think this past year was just a little bit of a dip because he had to handle so much of the load for the Huskies. 32.7% of the shots that were put up on the floor were from him while he was in the game, which is just incredibly impressive that a third of their offense just ran through him. He's a good free throw shooter. He's a good foul drawer. Again, he has got a very solid assist rate. Not a bad true shooting percentage, to be honest with you. I believe it was, third best on the team for NIU this past season. So he's not a bad statistical player, but it doesn't necessarily wow you. But you see the potential there. Speed, athleticism, aggression, the ability and willingness to pull from deep. High-level scorer at almost 21 a game. I like David Coit. I think I like JaKobe Coles the most out of the three players that we've talked about today, but I want you to tell me, who do you think is your favorite player in the transfer portal that Kentucky basketball has has contacted? You can comment about it in the comments below.